Welcome to my review and breakdown of episode 88 of Attack on Titan, also known as Attack on Titan, the Final Season, Part 3, Part 1. Also known as Attack on Titan, the Final Season, the Final Chapters, Special 1. Manga spoilers ahead. The episode opens with Mikasa from the cabin alternate reality from chapter 138, where Eren and Mikasa run away together to live out the rest of Eren's life peacefully, but at the cost of Paradis. People who believe in AOE point out that this can't be the cabin timeline because Mikasa touches Kid Eren, which didn't happen. The scene in reality follows cabin Mikasa touching cabin Eren, but what we see is Kid Eren being held because that is simply a depiction of the last thing he saw in his dream before waking up. He wakes up calmly just like the manga, instead of jolting awake like he did in the first episode of the anime. For the rest of this episode, I'm going to go off the idea that AOE is not going to happen. So I'll take this as a retcon of Eren's dream at the beginning. As an anime viewer, it feels a little off. Like it was a cool thing to have in the manga, having something happen in the first chapter that doesn't get fully explained until the second to last. But I guess the anime equivalent to this would be the episode 1 and episode 80 comparison, so at least that itch is scratched. Before I move on from here, I want to make sure viewers of this video who haven't seen my video essay on the ending of Attack on Titan understand my proposed ending for the series, which is to watch to episode 80 and then skip to 87 and end the show there. If you want my full explanation, go check out that video. For the rest of this video, I will be referring to that ending as the 87 ending. I bring this up because the first 10 minutes of this episode are phenomenal and would really suck to miss out on if you do follow the 87 ending. To the point I almost want to edit together my dream ending with all these little bits and pieces put together in a quote-unquote better order. Let's move on into the episode, to Ramsey and Halil. They are hiding behind a tree ogling at a bag of money Ramsey has sacrificed his hand to obtain. We follow these characters because they are slightly familiar representations of someone Eren referred to as just like him as a kid. Showing these characters at this point illustrates one of the big pictures the Rumbling is trying to paint. It's a reminder of what life in this world is. People risking things for money, society and all its rules, punishments for breaking those rules before stripping that whole society away as reality simply becomes running away from giant monsters. The soundtrack kicking in here is also amazing. I love this Mick Gordon Doom-like aggressive synth sound that summons the Rumbling in this episode, as we see the title card with the looming end of the world calmly walking towards the townspeople. We go back to the time when the scouts first went to Marley while they were undercover. Back in episode 87, when we saw this last, it was through the lens of what Mikasa was observing, but this time it's from Eren. So we get to hear all his thoughts and oh my, are they so heartbreaking and emotional. Mappa takes us through one of the best strings of internal dialogue in television. An author has to write a very good story to be able to construct a speech like this one, to have you relate to a character with such complex ideas going through his head, trying to understand the pain of someone who has seen the future and how horrendous it is going to be, and he knows that he is the cause for it. He is going to be responsible for their deaths. He is responsible. The emotion you feel as Eren comes to grip with his reality and what is going to happen as he thinks of all the possibilities that still feel possible for him at this point. But deep down he knows they won't work. He is going to start the Rumbling. There's this hyper-unique emotion of melancholic pain as Eren remembers his mother and asks himself, what would mom think? It just makes me want to tear up, I swear. This is all an amazing way to have you somewhat understand the emotions that both Eren and Reina felt, one that most of the main cast are feeling right now. We'll talk about this as we get to that part of the episode. This emotion is so complex, we feel for Eren. We've seen his whole journey to this point, but we know deep down in ourselves that he is evil, that what he's doing is horrible, but yet we still understand him. In a way, we are all half-assed pieces of shit. But before moving on to Eren's own realization of this, we get the famous line in an emotionally beautiful face of Eren remembering his past pain, and the anger he feels towards his enemies. I just can't accept things ending that way. He then sees Ramsey getting beat up in an alleyway, and has the urge to help him. But he goes on in his head about how he is going to kill this kid in the future. He's going to kill everyone this kid knows. He feels he has no right acting like a righteous person when he knows the actions he'll commit. It cuts to Eren on the hilltop where he will ask Mikasa what he is to her, but he's here carrying Ramsey. He saved the kid despite acknowledging that he is going to kill him, and because of that, one of the most heart-wrenching scenes plays out. Eren saying "I'm sorry" again and again to Ramsey. The sad moment is one of the few glimpses we get to see of the true Eren, pre-Season 4 Eren. The Eren before he completely detaches. This speech transitions into the current day Ramsey experiencing the rumbling is masterful, reminding you of the horrors Eren is committing right after making you feel so much for him. Hearing Eren continue his apology to Ramsey while watching the demise of Ramsey by Eren is such an amazing sequence, as Eren reveals that deep down, he knows that the future acts he will commit are something that he wants to do, making those visions of the future feel all that much more real, as he breaks down crying as we watch the horrific deaths of these two children. The episode continues on, showing the sheer might of the rumbling as it destroys everything in its path, only leaving behind bloodstains and footprints. We go into this gorgeous looking montage of the Titans moving, and then the desperate actions of people as they flee, or we get to see their horrible deaths. This sequence just reminds me of episode 1, the horrible deaths of people by the hands of silly looking monsters. But watching this similar destruction now is somehow so different. The rumbling is much more brutal in what it depicts, but in reality it's the fact that you know this is Eren Yeager committing this act. I have to give Mappa props for how amazing they did this sequence. Some of the most heart-wrenching pieces of art appear on the screen for a few seconds before cutting back to the relenting march of the Titans. Two examples of this is the shot of a mother holding her two kids as they cry in place, accepting their deaths. The other being of a man surrounded by bodies decides to end his own life before the rumbling can, which is followed by a severed arm being tossed through the air as we cut to Kid Eren soaring above the clouds. But these clouds are made of Titan steam. We see the beautiful sequence of Eren receding into his child self, to protect himself from the horrible guilt he feels. This is freedom. Eren turns behind him to share the view with Armin, who we see is current-day Armin, looking confused and terrified before having his memories wiped of what he saw and being placed back in his reality on the boat. The first 11 minutes are some peak Attack on Titan, but in my opinion, the rest of the special from here is not so peak. I want to preface what I say here with the fact that the lens I'm seeing this episode through is of someone who has read the manga and did not really enjoy the ending. So no matter what's happening on screen, unless if it fits in the 87 ending like the first 11 minutes do, I just dislike it based on the fact that I know it doesn't really go anywhere. So something like Armin talking with Annie as they act almost like school children pretending they don't have a crush on one another, Annie even points this out in the episode. This episode takes significant time to focus on Annie and her decision to not help everyone. I remember what Annie did. I remember Squad Levi. I remember how she made me feel. I don't care about her decision. This is the second to last episode of an incredible show. I don't care if Annie has a crush on Armin. Like I was just talking for around 7 minutes about the disastrous horror of the rumbling and how it's comparing itself to the man committing these acts and making you somewhat feel sorry for him. To then go on and see one character blushing because of something another character said. There are much more important things at hand. Why are we spending time on these lengthy conversations between side characters? The episode goes on with Annie talking with Mikasa and it's the same thing. It just feels like I want to skip it. I have a feeling that I know I feel this way because I'm expecting the end to be the same as it was in the manga. So it feels like the show's just dragging its heels before it shits the bed. Fundamentally though, these conversations are great. If they appeared earlier in the series, I would have enjoyed them and dissected them way more. To see where all these characters have ended up, and especially with Reiner and Annie, since it's been so long for us to really understand why they committed their actions. But as we move on from that, this next section is... oh boy. The whole segment of Flock is so stupid. Let me get this right. Flock got shot in the chest and then presumably hung onto the back of the boat for hours, probably around 6. Then he sat in the water all night while all the characters chit-chatted. Then finally in the morning, he climbed out of the water, stumbled up to the flying boat in a haze, started to shoot wildly into the crowd of people. He shoots 6 times before getting stabbed in the neck, and somehow Flock landed 3 of his shots right on the fuel tank. It's so dumb. Flock doesn't know the first thing about the flying boat. That's why the Azumabito engineers are so important. Yet 50% accuracy on the one place he can shoot that would reasonably slow the Alliance down. And because of this, as the rumbling approaches, the best plan the group can come up with is for one of them to sacrifice themselves. Don't get me wrong, the build up for Hange and the sequence around her death is fantastic. I'm more complaining about the manga here. The writers have failed this part of the story, not anyone else. But it's just goofy to me that all the characters stand there, geared up with ODM gear, to just stand there, mouth open, watching Hange. Help her out at least something. Like, just from how it all looks, Mikasa probably could have saved everyone and herself. So Hange probably didn't even need to die here. But I'll go on assuming that Hange's sacrifice was necessary. The goodbye between Hange and Levi definitely tug at your heartstrings. Hange's goofiness and Levi, who has lost so much, gives a heartfelt salute. It just makes you remember these two throughout the seasons. Hange will always be remembered as a great character, and Mappa did her departure justice. We move on to the gang making a plan for what they're going to do to stop the rumbling. The scene with Levi asking everyone in the room to help him kill Zeke. Jean and Connie adding in the fact that they have done horrible acts, all to give them this chance. The tone in this moment becomes solidified as you fully feel the fact that they are going into this ready to risk it all. Much like how John's arc is focused on the fact that he could stay out of the fight and live on, but he just can't allow himself to not do what is right. They all have that feeling. The weight of the dead. Reiner shares with the group the fact that Eren has said something similar to him that leads him to go on and share his theory that Eren might want them to stop him. Armin backs us up by telling everyone that it's odd that the Titan Shifters still don't have their power, because Eren is allowing it. Eren then backs this up by bringing them all into the paths to explain to them this one thing, that there is no need to talk, that they must fight. The sequence is chilling as they desperately try to get Eren to talk. Eren is depicted in the paths as a child, just like Ymir had been. Something about the Founder's power could potentially, for lack of a better phrase, simplify the minds of the user, forcing them to act out their greatest desire. But we don't really know that for sure. Also, I love the symbolism of everyone running towards Eren as he explains to them that they are free, only to reveal to them that they are in fact trapped. Much like how they all must feel, trapped in the choice they made to stop Eren. Moving on, we get to see that the warriors' parents are still alive and moving by train. I love how real these characters feel. The way they are all brutally honest with each other, because there's no point in not sharing your thoughts. Everyone is going to die. The world is ending, and you can feel that with these characters who have just seen society fall in a matter of moments before their eyes. They're only left with the mistake of leaving their child behind. As we move on to another gorgeous sequence that concludes this episode, the massive blimps dropping bombs over the rumbling, just to reveal Eren still has the Beast Titan in his arsenal, followed by the Alliance flying in and landing on the back of the Founding Titan, ready for a fight. But Armin is still determined to talk with Eren. One last time. All in all, this episode was very good. For an hour-long episode, the pacing was very well done, other than what I mentioned earlier with some conversations feeling like they were just dragging when we were bordering on the end of this whole series. But that's not to take away from the mass amounts of good in this episode. If the next episode does follow the manga, like I'm predicting, then we are in for an action-packed last episode. Thank you all for listening to my ramblings, and goodbye.